Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about photography as a means of discovery. So I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York. I make videos like this one. This is going to be a philosophy type video. It is just about springtime. It's getting a little bit warmer. I can actually be outside again, which is very nice. And it made me start to think about kind of wandering around with my camera, which is something that we do a lot, right? But it also made me start to think about the idea of why we take photos. What are we doing with it? What is it that we're doing, aside from the commercial aspect of it? Because even though many of us do photography commercially, or are commercial photographers, or make our living with photography, however you want to say it, we generally, as photographers, don't get into it for that reason. I mean, there's probably some photographers, in fact, I know one or two, that kind of fell into it as a business and just started doing it, and it was what it was. But most photographers enjoy photography and then decide that it's a business they want to pursue. You know, just generally, I would say, making a huge generalization there, but I would say that's pretty accurate. So, anyways, what is it about photography that draws us? What are we doing, right? There is this idea of discovery, which is kind of what I was thinking about. The idea that if I were to just go someplace and wander around and look around, that's fun, right? But sometimes, for many of us anyways, the idea is that it's more difficult to motivate ourselves to just randomly walk somewhere and look around and stare at things and observe things. In fact, a lot of people in the world or society might see that as weird, right? If they see you just kind of standing there staring at a tree or a strange signpost or some crinkled up paper on the ground. But the act of photographing it, of capturing it, normalizes that, right? It allows us to do these things that probably we're craving as people, that we're exploring, we're looking for things. It gives us a reason within kind of normal society, if you will, to do it. It gives us the ability to go out there and explore and discover things with a reason. Because I think that a lot of times people feel like they need a reason. You know, it's that old thing like, why'd you climb the mountain? It's like, because it was there. I don't think that people think that way as much anymore. I feel like maybe that's a bad thing. I mean, who knows? I think that the idea of exploring for exploration's sake is somewhat lost on a lot of people. So the camera is a tool that allows us to do that exploration in a way that feels right. And, you know, I mentioned, of course, climbing mountains and stuff, which is one thing, but also just the idea of like, you go to, let's say, New York City. So if I'm going to go to New York City, let's say to Times Square, and I want to kind of explore it, exploring with a camera gives me a focus. It gives me a reason. It also gives me some control, in a sense, and some certainty as to what I should be doing, right? I'm looking for the photos. I'm looking for the light. I'm looking for the shadow. You know, maybe I'm actually just there because I want to experience it. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I think that for a lot of people, it's hard to just say, hey, I'm going to go walk around Times Square randomly. Whereas if you say, again, I'm going to do street photography, it's completely, totally acceptable. This discovery is not just limited to that, right? It can also be that you're discovering people and friends, right? Maybe you are... you want to meet new people, so you join a photo club, right? This is a way to interact with people because, you know, especially as we're adults, right, how do you generally do that, right? When you're young, you're like in school, right, you're kind of forced together with different people, but as we get older, we tend to, kind of close up our social groups a lot unless we make an effort to find new groups. And those groups can be found through photography, especially with things like, you can see that the light is at the end of there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm already starting to talk about this stuff, but like, for instance, the meetup group that we had at Adirama, you know, with thousands of people that came to our events to see the live demos. Yeah, you can still, obviously, and you should, please watch me on Thursdays at Adirama. I still do them, but there's a different experience, right? You can sit at home and watch me on your couch, like you're probably doing now, and hopefully learn that way. But it's a different experience to be there, right? Not just because you get to interact in person with whoever's presenting, not just me, of course, but also other people, right? Friendships were forged. Smaller groups were created during these meetups, and the discovery of people that are interested in the same things as you was accomplished, right? And the camera was the tool. different levels of photographers, different ideas, but at the same time, you all have that one thing in common, the photography, right? So it can be used that way. It can be used to meet and interact with people. It can be used to explore places you haven't used. And the other thing is, it can be used, again, as almost like a safety net or a life preserver in a sense, if you are the type of person that wants to explore but doesn't really know like what to do. Like, let's say that I'm like, oh, I really want to go, to Arizona. Why am I going to Arizona? Maybe I just want to go because it's beautiful, right? So I can connect. There's lots of different ways to do it. But one way is you could be like, oh, I'm going to go on some kind of a tour, a hiking tour, right? So that's one thing. Hiking can connect people. But also I could say I'm going to photograph the beauty of nature, right? And I can use my photography as a way to guide my trip, guide my exploration, guide my discovery. And this is true of any city as well. I mean, I want to go check out Chicago, or I want to go to New York City, or I want to go to Los Angeles. You can go to different areas with your camera to photograph these classic places as a way to kind of, again, allow yourself to discover things, but the camera gives you that that focus, that reason to be there, that thing. Because I think a lot of us need that. So if you don't already do things like street photography or some travel photography, for lack of a better word, landscapes, maybe as the weather's getting nicer in the north, and hopefully this global pandemic is starting to come under some kind of control, hopefully we can find ourselves out there again, discovering, seeing things, exploring, and using our interest, our love, our passion for photography as a way to discover the world and those people around us, right? The world, the people around us, those kind of things. So I don't know. Let me know. Do you guys agree with that? Do you use your camera as a means to discover? Did you ever think about it like that? Do you not think that at all? You're just like, no, I know what I'm photographing. I don't have to discover anything. Or do you use it that way? I'd be really curious. I'm very curious as to how many of you do that. I know a lot of you do it as your main thing, but how many of you just grab a camera sometimes and go and do street photography? You hardly ever see me talk about it, but that's something I do. And maybe if you're interested, I'll talk about that more. In any case, I hope you're all doing well. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell if you haven't done that, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time.